everyone. Welcome to another episode of PixlFeed Radio. And I'm here with my friend, Kimberly Spencer. Kimberly, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Christian. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm so super excited to get you in here because last time we tried, we missed each other by about 5 minutes. And that was totally my fault because I had a call that went longer and I couldn't get a hold of you because I realized afterwards that you were in Australia. So I was like, I can't call her because I didn't have the number. So things happen. We finally managed to do it. And I'm so happy and excited to talk to you because, going through all your stuff and seeing some of your stuff, you remind me of me. Like I call it the shiny object syndrome, but actually, taking advantage of it and making it happen, which most people get lost when we're trying to do too many things at once. You have managed to do the same thing that I have done, which is somehow make it happen. And from what I've seen and everything, you're as passionate as I am, and you get so super excited about talking all this stuff because you truly love it. And I really can see that, coming through you. And that's why I'm so excited to have you here. So I'm going to try to give everything, but I'm just going to let you run with it because you're going to explain everything you do better than I can. But for those of you that don't know, Kimberly is a coach and trainer. She's an Amazon best-selling author, international motivational speaker. She's at one point she had a Pilates studio. I mean, you have done so much. And when you started as a kid, you were selling glitter water, which I can't wait to hear what glitter. I don't even know what glitter water is. So why don't you tell everybody how you got started, how you got to where we're at today, and then we'll get into, we'll see where the conversation goes and hopefully help some people along the way.
Well, first of all, let's start with glitter water because glitter water, it's very self-explanatory. It's water in a plastic bag with glitter. And at 5 years old, I was split testing price points for selling them for 5 cents or $50. And I figured we'd just see what the market determined. So,
that $50.
I never got 50, but they did sell on hot days. And they did sell to the backyard productions that I would put on in my home, where I would corral all the neighborhood kids into these stories of transformative stories of princesses, where a princess was rising into her reign and had to overcome some challenges, probably an evil queen or two, and then I would write these stories. I would be the lead performer in these stories. I would enroll all the other neighborhood kids in these stories. And then the good part about doing backyard productions is you have a built-in audience of the parents who will pay to see their children. And so I would do these shows. And now fast forward 30 something years from then, I still am doing the same thing, just in a different way. My main job with my clients and people is transforming people's stories from what's not been possible to what can be possible, from being a victim of their circumstances into being the victor of their life, from being able to defy their own self-limiting beliefs or other people's self-limiting beliefs, or as I call it, plagiarized programming, helping them rise into that queenly or kingly version that they are. And I'm the performer, as you can see. From me
I'm the same way. So look at me.
Performer still, as an entrepreneur, is still the director. They're the producer of their own show. And, if you're self-funded, you're the executive producer as well. So I'm doing all the things that I did when I was 5 years old, just in a different form than I thought I would be doing it. Like I thought, because I grew up in Los Angeles, that the form that I would be of service in would be in the movie industry. And so I got started there. After I graduated high school, I immediately started.
Pictures of you with Danny Trejo in there somewhere.
Yeah, cool. He was in a feature film that I co-wrote. And so that was really exciting. And it was, for me, when I had that opportunity to co-write a feature film and got it distributed, it's on Netflix. It's called Bro. It's about the high-flying, hard-partying world of freestyle motocross, which I knew nothing about. up until like literally the fourth draft, when my director, who is also my co-writing partner, was like, can you add in freestyle motocross? Like, how much do you know about it? And I was like, I don't know anything, but there's YouTube.
Yeah, right.
And so I just researched, because really the heart of the story was a young kid who wants to fit in with a cool crowd. And so we've all experienced that story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you can look at, and that's why I love storytelling and transforming people's stories, because if you look at Hollywood, there's only about 7 types of script formats. There's only 7 stories that really sell. And the same is true with coaching, and with what I've seen with coaching high achievers and high performers and entrepreneurs, is that there really is, you start to see these patterns of these common beliefs, the deserving, the putting themselves up on a pedestal and having to then be like getting to a certain point of success in their career, and then having to go back and do something where they're the student again. Right. And the mindset trials that come with that, and that fear and courage, and these common themes that are in people's lives. And so even though my path to be a high performance coach was very windy, started out in screenwriting, needed a job to support myself, got a job, became a certified Pilates instructor, ended up starting my own little private Pilates studio in Burbank, and then got the opportunity to become a partner in an e-commerce company, joined that. And then I just allowed for the evolution. Once I was bought out of that company in 2014, I really just evolved into doing what I do now. And it's just because at each one of those, I allowed myself to follow my curiosity instead of some tried and true path that someone said I should be following.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like very careful who I have here, because I've been around this industry for a long time. So if I catch bullshit, I'm gonna call you out on it, and I don't care. And you've actually done it. You're like me. You started on your own. You've done it. You're still doing it. And then on top of it, you help other people. We all know there's people out there who all they do is just create courses of something they never done. Mm-hmm. And that drives me nuts. And it's like, I feel it's like a predatory industry in a way. So, when people are looking for, for somebody to help, you just make sure you're looking for somebody who's done it or who's doing it. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out or find out. You know what I mean? All it takes is some Google search, and you can figure out if they're doing it or not. And I always call it in here, especially on this, there's a lot of people out there who talk about what I do, but I'm like, I always show the numbers behind the scenes. No one else does. Isn't that funny how that works, right?
Yep.
So that's a big part of it.
Being able to be transparent and say you are where you are, and say, this is who I am. This is what I've built. And I think it's because there's a lot of people who have shame in that. And then there's a lot of struggle. Like I can tell you that, especially in the coaching industry, because I love the fact that you brought up the thing that I don't like either, of seeing people just suddenly turn around and say, oh, well, but life coaching is not profitable, so I'm going to turn around and be a business coach. And they take a course, and then they repurpose that course and then turn it into a business coaching course when they haven't implemented the work. And the thing is that every single time, and I don't just coaches, because I think that that's a very incestuous business model. Mm-hmm. I have clients in all different types of industries from all different types of businesses, and I really like it that way. I really prefer it that way, because I think that with the coaching industry model and the way that it has become, in many ways, it's like what you said, it is parasitical. Is that a word?
I think it's a word, but I know where you're going. Trust me, I know exactly what you're trying to say. So
yeah, and so being able to have that open conversation. I did a YouTube video 2 years ago that was 4 questions you should ask any coach before you work with them. And one is, have you done what? Yeah, one was, have you ever done what I'm planning on doing? And now here's the thing. I have clients that I coach who are way farther ahead monetarily than I am. Multiple 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs. And the beautiful thing is that you can coach people who are farther ahead. I'm not saying that you can't. What I am saying is, what are you coaching them for? Like if you're saying, I'm going to give you business advice for a 7-figure business, then that's more of a consulting model. And if you haven't built a 7-figure business, then check yourself.
Right.
But if you are coaching them on maybe around fulfillment, or maybe around work-life balance, or maybe around their productivity, like that, you can definitely guide in that area. Like if you're a freaking productivity rock star and can just bang systems and see systems out of like, and see the missing holes in systems, like rock out, like go for it. Mindset coach away, but just look at what is your zone of genius in the space. And like my zone of genius is really navigating through the glorious waters of someone's subconscious mind and recognizing the patterns that are holding them back, seeing the patterns that are holding them back in their team structure, seeing the patterns that are holding them back personally, and then looking for patterns where there is a pattern of success that we can then model and shift that pattern into a different form. So for example, like one of my clients, she just moved to a new country. And I love it when clients do that, because then all the time zones and daylight savings time changes on everyone.
Exactly.
And she had such a successful process that we looked at how she could apply that process to her business. And she was like, I didn't even know this was a process. Like, I didn't even know this was like a success thing that I could model. And she was able to use that as a format, as a step-by-step, instead of me saying, oh, here are the 10 things you need to do in your business, and here's how you build your list, and I use what the client already has, and I coach around those like subconscious processes and how we can find those and maximize on their potential.
Right. And I like the way your angle on that, for sure. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that you think that anyone can do it if they really want to. I can't. What was the word you exactly said? Because basically,
parasitical.
What was that?
Was it parasitical?
No, parasitical. It was basically what you were saying is that anyone can do it if they put their mindset and their work to it. And you specialize working with people who don't grow up with privilege, or they don't have the advantages that some other people do. And I like the fact that you brought that up, because I have a really good friend of mine, Shannon. I'm going to call you out because she's probably never going to listen to this anyway. But my friend Shannon and I, we've been best friends for a long, long time. And we always have this argument. Like when there's people out there, mutual acquaintances between our Facebook accounts, that all they do is complain all day long how they're broke and blame it on somebody else. And, it's like, and when she shares it with me, I'm like, I don't feel bad. Like at this point, like all the information is out there. I've actually said something in some of those posts, and I don't feel bad that he's just sitting there complaining about it, because anybody can do it, man. Anybody can make everything that we have now. There is no excuse. You can make money from your phone. And she's like, well, you just say that because you grew up with privilege, because you were about business your whole life. I'm like, dude, half of the people that I hang out with in my circles, they'll come from broke. And I mean, like, not a penny to their name, some in the worst parts of the country to grow up in, and they've made it. And all it took, it was motivation, wanting to do it. And I mean, you deal with some people that are like that. Why do you think there's people out there that just sit there and I don't want to say take it, but that's what it is. Like, why can't they change their mindset? Like when you deal with when you're helping people that came from those type of backgrounds and you help them become successful, what do you think, from your experience, what do you think is stopping them to take that next, to do something about it, basically? Like fear, or like, failure?
Well, generally they're not coming they're not coming to me when they are stuck in that space. They're coming to me because they're like, they've exhausted all their resources and are ready to move out of that space.
Right.
But what I've seen as to why people stay stuck in that space is because of crabs in a bucket. There's a great story of a man, and he's walking his son, and they're collecting all these crabs and they're putting them in a bucket. And the son is like, oh my gosh, look at Dad, they're trying to get out. Like, and these crabs were trying to they were crawling on top of each other to get out of the bucket. And his dad goes, whoa, wait. And because his little son thought he was going to lose all his crabs. And his dad goes, wait. They said, just watch. And the kid watches, and he watches as soon as a crab starts to reach up and like reach for more, other crabs pull it down. And as soon as the crab starts to reach up and keep going and it climbs on top, other crabs will pull it down. And so that is why your environment is so key, especially when you're going for any dream. Like one of my clients, for example, when we first started working together, she talked to her mom all the time, like all the time. Well, her mom had been a 50-year employee of a company. So she'd never grown a business. She'd always had some semblance of stability, or the perception of it. I actually personally think that entrepreneurship is the really stable profession, but we can dive into that.
I was talking to my wife about that when I was getting started.
Yeah, well, I can actually share why that is. Yeah. It's because entrepreneurship builds a skill set of influence and sales that you can take into any form of any industry. Yeah. I can walk into any company and say, like, I can close high ticket sales. You have a $30,000 product, I can close that. So whether I have my own business or not, there is a skill set that so I don't think I would ever work for somebody else at this point after being an entrepreneur for 10 years. Like, yeah. At the same time, I have built a skill set so that I know that no matter what business I have, the same principles I apply, and I can apply those principles into anywhere. So, and I've told this to many entrepreneurs, especially those who in the tourism industry around Australia who lost their businesses because of the pandemic. And I'm like, well, if you built it here, you can do it again. Like, maybe it's not going to be the same form. Maybe it's not a car rental business. Maybe it's a different type of business, but you built up a skill set of building a team, sales, hustle. That is a skill set that translates. So you can do it again. And so when I was working with my client, I recommended that she stop talking. She can talk to her mom about anything else, personal, love life, babies, go for it. But business, save that for people who have done it. Because she was getting crappy business advice from someone who has never done it, who was basing their business advice off of, I've worked for 50 years, having worked for 50 years in corporate in an established company, that it's a different beast.
Yeah, I've seen it so many times with friends, and I was, well, I got advice from so-and-so. What did they do for them? Well, they worked for this company for like 20 years. Did they ever start a business? No. So why are you listening to them? They get a paycheck every 2 weeks, like no matter what they do, like especially at a Fortune 500 company, it's pretty hard to get fired if you're a boomer at a Fortune 500 company, because like you've been established for a long time, and then you have all the HR stuff. But you brought up a good point that I tell people all the time, and I think it's my most important skill set that I can have, and you can literally take everything away from me, my credit cards, my wallet, my phone, every penny, like take all my money away and just drop me in the middle of anywhere without nothing. And it will pull me through because I know how to sell. And because I know how to sell, I can turn anything into money. And that is I think it's the most important skill set to have. And
it's not taught to children.
It's not
taught in really any other arena except for entrepreneurship, or if you're literally going into sales and marketing, which is just relationships.
Yeah.
Like sales, I think, can have a very scary connotation and sometimes sleazy connotation, but really it's just persuasion and influence in relationship.
That's only if you're selling a product you don't believe in. If you sell a product and it's a quality product and you're servicing your clients and the value is there and you believe in it, why would you feel bad? You're helping your client, you're servicing your client. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
They're going to improve their life or their business. Why would you feel bad about that? I think people feel bad about it because they feel like they're manipulating because they're learning how to sell. Listen, I thought I was the born natural salesman because of my family. I grew up around it or whatever. And I really thought that for the longest time. And I kind of had the natural side of it. And I got by for a long time just being quote unquote natural. But once I started learning and reading books from Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar, the guy from Pitch Anything, I can't remember his name right now, but all these guys and my mentors and stuff like that. And, you know, I had a guy at one point, I worked in a kind of like boiler room type of situation way back in the day. And I had this 350-pound guy screaming at me when I will mess up on the phone, like Wolf of Wall Street. And he will take the phone and just hang up on me and scream at me. And I mean, that's part of how I learned. And then I started finding like scripts and how to overcome objections and, you know, the power of silence. And once you learn the art of selling and you got it down to a T, and it's a product that whether it's $30,000, $1 million, or whatever, it's always the same. It's just, there's going to be objections and you know they're coming up, and you know how to get rid of them before they come up.
And they're the same objections, whether it's, you know, yes, a $10 product or a $30,000 product or a, you know, $1 million product. Like, it's the same objections of not enough time and not enough money, and I don't know if it'll work for me. And great, awesome.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, it's easy
around that.
It's easier to sell a $50,000 product than it is a $500 product, because the person who's probably buying the $500 product, it's like, I need every penny and I hope this saves my life and all that. While the guy with the $50,000 is like, all right, just throw in the credit card, like, let's go, you know. Yeah. And people don't believe me.
And that's exactly what my dad taught me. That was one of the entrepreneurship lessons that I learned from my dad. He recently passed, and I did a YouTube video in honor of him.
I'm sorry.
And that was one of them. He built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch while being an addict, which is unheard of. I mean, I remember just 4 years ago when I was calling rehab facilities for him and like halfway houses. And they were like, well, you know, in our halfway house, your father has to have a job. And I was like, my dad owns a multi-million-dollar company that he built from scratch while being an addict.
That's crazy.
They were like, wait, we've never heard of that before. I was like, I know. Like, yeah. But being able to see that. So I grew up, like my mom, when I was 2 years old, when I was my son's age, she was pushing me around in the stroller, passing out flyers, trying to sell their services as arborists and like sell their landscaping services. And she was just going up to people. And so I learned the hustle at an early age and the art of the sale. And for the first 10 years of my life, I remember there was a lot more struggle. There was a lot more hardship. My parents were getting support and help from my grandma to be able to pay for my education. And then something shifted. I don't know what it was, but then something shifted in my dad. And then he started like happily bringing home like $20,000, $30,000 contracts. And suddenly I asked him when I first started my Pilates business, and he said, Kim, learn how to replace yourself, for one, which actually was one that he never took his own advice on. Like, he did kind of take his own advice, but he didn't 100% take his own advice on that one. And then he also said, it takes just as much work, time, and effort to get a $100 client as it does a $10,000 client. You might as well get a $10,000 client. Like,
I say that so many times in here. See, guys, I'm not the only one who tells you this all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
And it's so much easier, and it's so much more fun, because it's also an easier sale.
Yeah,
I mean, if you have a qualified prospect who is qualified, where they have that income to be able to throw down $50,000, $70,000 for your services, it's so much easier to be able to close that than to close that person who is pinching pennies, and that $5,000 is literally like their all the savings that they have.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing, though, is that I think so many entrepreneurs, they're scared to charge those higher price points. And I get it. Like, there's all the self-worth and doubt issues. I mean, imposter syndrome and the whole like charge what you're worth. And I'm like, you're not a freaking prostitute. You are priceless as a human being. Right. You're charging for what your services are worth, and you're charging for the process that you're providing. So if you're providing a process that is proving results. So when my clients double or triple their income, like I feel very confident to raise my prices, especially when they make back what they invested with me within the first 2 months. Like I feel very confident in raising my prices to be able to adapt to that because the process has results. But the thing is that people get caught up in imbuing their own self-worth and their own self-doubt and their own self-limiting beliefs, quite frankly, into that process, which makes the selling process about the person who the selling process has never been about. The selling process is not about you. It's about the other person. The selling process is about the other person buying into the belief of possibility that something more is out there for them. And something better is out there for them. And that's the beautiful thing, is that it's not about you as the seller. It's not about you at all. It's about the other person buying into the possibility of what's possible for them. They believe, because everything starts with belief. They believe that your product or your service will help them. And so if you're not feeling like it will, it's up to the other person to determine that value. And when the other person does determine that value, then it's your obligation to sell to them. Like, because otherwise you're shooting not only yourself in the foot, but you're shooting them in the foot and taking away that possibility for them. And that's not being of service to anyone. And so for me, I get very passionate about sales.
I like it. You sound like me. I love it.
I do believe that sales comes from soul. Like I believe that when you have that, it is one of the highest forms of service to actually sell and then deliver the value, deliver world-class value to your customers, do it the best you can with them, really, tweak, refine. Like in my company, we don't have customer issues. We have customer innovations. Every issue, everything, every hiccup in a process, I'm like, great, we learned something. Thank you for that learning opportunity. Let's grow from there. What do we need to put in place? What system do we need to put in place to remedy that so that it doesn't happen again? And being able to see that and grow with that, it's so fun.
I tell people all the time when they get a bad review, I'm like, that's a good thing. Now you know what's something that's wrong. Figure it out. And that helps you figure out what. Obviously, if it's a real review, not those crazy people.
Well, and sometimes even when what's wrong, it could be, why am I attracting the wrong type of customers into my business? Why am I attracting customers that aren't aligned with my values? Like I had one client who, as we started to get more and more crystal clear on her values and the values that she wanted to promote in her business and really set the foundation for her company that she'd never really thought of, she actually had like a good, I would say 2% of her customers that just decided to just form a hate group against her and totally and so we had some really good conversations around boundaries. We had really good conversations around values. And we also, that's the beauty of, as you get more clarity as you're going as a business owner on what it is that you stand for and what it is that you don't. As you do that, there will be people who will be like, oh my gosh, I'm so coming into your, as I call it, like your business kingdom. And then there will be some people like, yeah, no, peace out. And then there'll be some who will rail against it. You're never going to please everybody, but sometimes those wrong reviews or those reviews that show something, or those haters or whatever, those can point you to like the greatest breakthroughs that you can have.
I was talking about like e-commerce and stuff like that. When you read the reviews for a product or something like that, usually I like to go through those and see like, okay, here's how we fix it. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I love reading the reviews for like books, because I'm in the middle of getting ready to release mine finally.
We can bring up the book. What's the name of the book?
Yes, it was supposed to come out last year. Did not. So this is
props to you for writing a book. People want me to write a book. I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, this one has been on my heart and soul and has been in my gut for way too long. And so I'm excited to release it and get it out there. The book that I was an Amazon bestseller was, I was a co-author, and this one is my first solo. That's and so cool. I'm like, let's take it, let's give it a stab, and let's do it. But it's about how I reprogrammed my mindset from 10 years of bulimia into now loving my body and trusting that it's going to, you know, birth a baby, whatever size this baby chooses to be.
That's awesome.
That's
good.
It's going to bounce back like it did the first time. And it's all going to be like, I just have such an immense trust with my body. And that's the skill set and the success strategy that I use to apply to my business now. And that I use to get me out of debt, and that I use to get me to a place where I am just like able to live in Australia and live with my family here and have this like this. So I'm really excited to release it because it definitely is a very personal story. But I lost my train of thought.
No, it's good. It's good. No, that's really good. Listen, we all have our things. I can probably write a book on all my the things have brought me down in life, whether it's, you know, partying or like I totally have body dysmorphia. I mean, I say jokingly all the time, but I truly do. Like it's for somebody who's on camera all the time. Like I hate watching myself on video. Like I pick-nit everything. I'm surprised I'm not a bodybuilder, to be honest with you. Like those guys that are super ripped, because I like nitpick everything. But I want to ask you something, because this really grabbed my attention, because not too many people grew up like I did. And it sounds like, you know, you grew up with money, that you grew up with a family with money. Am I right or wrong?
No, I didn't.
No. You say your dad built a company?
He did build a company. So we did have money. Mm-hmm. But we didn't start with having money.
Gotcha.
Like I watched how he grew to having money, mm-hmm. but money was not, I mean, there were times where I saw early on, we couldn't go to a nice restaurant because my parents didn't have clients or work booked for the next 2 weeks or like that. And so I saw that side of it. I'm not saying that I was like dirt poor, because I was not. Like I definitely was middle class and we were in a nice neighborhood.
And that's good.
But it wasn't like affluent, and there definitely were the money struggles that I saw with my dad trying to solopreneur it for the first 10 years of my life. And then what happened as he started to build a team and then build structure. And then my mom came on board, and when my mom came on board to support him, then the business really took off a lot more.
The reason why I ask you that is because I've had this conversation with other people previously, and this is no secret. I grew up with a lot of money, you know, my family or whatever. So I think that was a disadvantage to me. Even though I was around it, I always knew that if something happened, I always had daddy's money. So my teenage years, my early college years, early 20s until about 23, where something went down. I'm not going to tell the whole story again because I told it here before. Basically, my family lost it all. And at that moment, I was like, oh, shit, like, I got to figure this out now that I don't have, you know, daddy's money to back me up. And, you know, in a way, I think, it was a great way to grow up. I'm not going to lie about that. But it was a disadvantage to me, because I didn't have that fire in me to make it happen quicker that I needed to. And I think people like, I look at people like, you know, Elon, Gary Vee, you know, they're all immigrants that came from nothing. Well, Elon was middle class, but Gary Vee came from nothing. And I know a lot of people that came from nothing, and they got started very early because there was that fire and desire to just make it happen right away. And I think that's why you hear the stories about, you know, rich kids who just like, what happened, dude? You had like access to everything, like, you know. So
generational wealth, most 95% of generational wealth is lost by the third generation. 78% is lost by the second. And why? Because I agree with you, because I grew up, I saw both sides, and I never thought that, I would have a trust fund. Like that was never something that was on my mind. So I was like, I'm set for life. I didn't. But at the same time, I've also worked with clients who do have trust funds, and who did grow up wealthy, and who did grow up with that ability. And I think that there is also a different sort of navigation that has to happen. And I mean, everybody has their own struggles. And I mean,
Right.
yeah, you tell the story to someone who grew up dirt poor, and they're gonna be like, oh, boo-hoo, you grew up with money. But at the same time, that fire in your belly, like you mentioned, and that hunger and that need to move away from pain is not as much there. But it's not, but it can be cultivated. And it can be fostered. And then maybe the pain that you're moving away from, because that hunger and that drive can really be from that need to move away from pain. Now, everybody has a different type of pain. Like we all have pain that we want to move away from.
I can tell you mine right now. Mine is I had it, it got taken away, and I know what it's like to have it. So I got to figure out how to make it back. Now, I know for a fact I'm probably never going to get to my dad's level at that time. But
I don't know, Christian.
But I'm good. I'm good. I'm super happy. No, I'm telling you, I'm super happy right now. I'm super happy right now. It reaches a point where it's like, you know, and I'm not like a crazy multimillionaire or anything like that, but it reaches a point where like you're good. Like it's still, you can buy more useless stuff really. I mean, after you travel and all that stuff. That's the way I think about it after I've seen both sides of it. And that's why you hear people all the time. It's like, listen, money doesn't buy you happiness. Well, I joke around like money doesn't buy you happiness, but it sure pays your fucking bills. And once those are paid, you're good. Like you're stress-free because that's what, you know, that's what drives people nuts. Like if you're trying to make it, you have that stress on top of it. That's what makes it 100 times harder.
Or it makes you work 100 times faster.
That too.
So, I mean, I can tell you that I've seen people, it really depends on people's personal subconscious motivation strategy. And because people have different pain tolerances and different levels of stress. And like my husband and I were just joking the other day, we were like, man, we're raising our son with so much love and so much support. Like we've heard all these stories as well of like people growing up really like, you know, they have the hunger in them, but at the same time, like, I know it's just going to provide a different foundation. My son's going to have both my kids are going to have their own struggles that they're going to have to deal with. Like my oldest, he's going to have, like, I already know he has such a loving heart. He has such a loving heart. He has such a compassion, and he really takes things personally when someone doesn't like him or does something mean to him. And that's something that's going to be one of his struggles that he's going to get to work through. And so it may not be money, but everybody has an invisible struggle. And I think us pedestaling like, oh, because I didn't have this money struggle, or I did, your mission is because of how you've lived your life, and you will serve a certain type of client. You will serve people that are different than I am because of how you've grown up. That's why, like, one of my clients who grew up with money, like, she is able to serve people who are in the space that have grown up with money and are in their 50s and are totally fine with living their life and living their purpose, and not having the guilt that comes with, like, oh, maybe I should be struggling more. Maybe I should, like, be doing this, and being able to live life with that joy. Like, because there's that paradigm as well. It's just all different struggles for every single human. And I mean, I grew up with both. I grew up with, you know, the fear and the addict and the not knowing where the next, you know, not knowing if my school was going to be paid for, not knowing if my if we could, you know, go out to if I could buy new clothes. Like, I remember to being able to move into, like, oh, I'm now at a, you know, like, I'm now able to go to Tiffany and, like, go out to dinner. Like, okay.
No, I don't feel guilty after what I've been through. So like, 2010 was enough for me to be proud of what I came back from. So it's like, no, now what I have, I don't feel guilty about.
It's just a different struggle. And I think the problem is that we try to compare our struggles to other people's when our path is our path. And I had a really interesting woman. She helps people prepare their TEDx talks. And that's one of my that's one of my goals from the next 2 years from now, whether it's this year or next year. Yep. TED Talk, putting it out there into the universe. So
I'm sure you'll do it.
Oh, I will. And I said, well, what is it about personal stories? And she said, well, because there's always someone who can top you with how bad your life was, right? Like there's a fantastic Modern Family episode where the gay couple is trying to get their daughter into preschool, and it's a very competitive, like it's a wealthier neighborhood, and they're looking at like, what cards can we play? And then as they're talking with the principal about how they've adopted their daughter and how they're a gay couple and have been able to provide this life for her. Then another couple comes in, another gay couple comes in, and one of the women is in a wheelchair, and they're like, oh crap, like we just lost that battle. And it's a really funny moment, but it just goes to show you that everybody, like there will always be a story that topped you. There will always be someone who is like, who had a harder time, who did that. And that's where comparison comes in. And comparison is just, it's a thief of joy, and we can be cliche about it, but really it misdirects you from your purpose, because you're looking outside of your own lane as to who you can serve. And and I truly believe that because of the experiences that you went through, that I went through, in every area, whether it was from having money or not having money, or growing up with an addict, or growing up with a super successful father, like in every area, there was something that there was struggle, and that we can serve a different type of person because of that experience. And that shifting from that focused from being on self to still being on service. Like, how was growing up with money like the best thing that ever happened to you? How was having that stability and that safety net? And who's to say that it didn't serve you? Because you still have like that entrepreneur fire as well, and especially because you lost it, or your family lost it. But at the same time, like, you were able to learn this skill set. You were able to learn and grow up around money. And so it became a very conversational topic. You didn't have to learn from infancy, like what that struggle was, and then how to navigate, and what is this foreign thing called money, and how do we achieve
listen,
it?
I consider myself very lucky. Like my dad wasn't one of those people that, even though he worked really hard, he was always there no matter what. Showed up for everything, very loving. We're still very close. So it's like, that makes me think now, because of what I went through, it's like, how am I going to do it with my kid? Like, of course I want to give him everything under the sun, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to give him everything under the sun, because I don't want him to grow up like me thinking he's set for life. It's like, so it's like such a like inside struggle that I have going on right now. It's like, I don't even know what to do with him. It's,
like for us, what we do is we don't pay for chores. Like with our son, we establish that we are a team. And so we each have our different roles that we do as a team, and as a team, we support each other. We do pay, for when our son does something that he loves. So when he's participating in an activity that he really loves and enjoys, we wanted to cultivate the belief that you can make money doing something that you love, that you enjoy, and that's of service to someone. And so for our son, that's cooking, and he loves cooking with my husband. And so we pay him for that, but we don't want to pay him for chores, because that's just a part of, being responsible and being a part of the family unit and the family team. And so that's for us, that's one thing that we started doing, and we've really navigated, because my husband didn't grow up from money. He grew up dirt poor, and my dad grew up dirt poor. Like, my dad had hand-me-downs for years, and he constantly reminded me that when I was 15, we added a second story onto the house, and he was like, Kim, your closet was the size of my bedroom that I slept in with 4 of my brothers. So it's a different paradigm. And so we are constantly checking and looking at what are the beliefs that we want to teach, what are the beliefs that we may need to instill. Like, we're already seeing, especially with our 3-year-old, the beautiful part about having children is that they're such mirrors. So
I don't know if that's a good thing with me. He already has my attitude. So I'm like,
for me, I'm already seeing like being extra hard on yourself, and like my son is quite hard on himself, and he has such a desire to love people that when he doesn't, when he's not able, when that's not fully received, or he feels like he hurt someone, he struggles with that, and that's his struggle that he's dealing with. Yeah. And looking at how to navigate that, and having the constant conversations, because every single one of these conversations as a parent, I think nothing will grow you faster in personal development than being a parent and being an entrepreneur. Like those two things are roles that you have to grow into, period. And it will make you look at all your beliefs. It'll make you look at how you want to change from the patterns that maybe were established growing up, and how you want to be different, and how you want to define how your life is. Yeah,
I'm very keen on following what you love. And my wife agrees with me, because she comes from a background where she was told you're either going to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. And she became one of those. But at first she hated it. I mean, she just did it because that's what she was told to do, and now she loves her career and all that because she found the actual path that she enjoys. But it was a struggle for a long, long time, and she was not happy for a long, long time. So we both decided, it's like, absolutely, like, she sees me, how happy I am from day one and how driven I am. I'm like, yeah, I want that for my kids. Like, you do whatever it is that you want to do, and I'll be here to guide you. And listen, with the technology that we have now and the tools that we have now, it's like you said, cooking. Be a chef, man. Just start, I don't know, a YouTube channel, TikTok account, and just start cooking. And that's it. You'll have a following and start an email list, and that's it. And by the time you're like, 25, it's like, I'm sure you have a couple products under your sleeve, or maybe a TV show. Who knows? It's like.
Well, my son apparently has like 9 restaurants up and down the Gold Coast. So
yeah, see, like he already has goals.
Every playground.
Hashtag goals, man. But one thing I was joking around a long time ago, I read a book by the biography of Rockefeller. And he talks about when the kids, he was very frugal. And with the kids, when he was raising his kids, like, he will pay him for doing chores around the house. But he would actually take out the taxes every time he will give him the money for the chore. So he's like, oh, this is taxes. So this goes here. Now you got to wait a year to get it back. And it's like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that too. So.
Well, and those are principles of money that we can teach to children that is not taught in schools.
No, it's not.
And it's funny. I was at my mentor, Brendan Burchard's High Performance Academy a few years ago. Gigantic conference, and someone asked me what my giant mission was, and I said I want to impact 1 million children. And they're like, but I thought you worked with adults. And I was like, well, I got to work with the parents first.
Yeah, right.
Shifting the mindsets, and like how, like, really being conscious about how do you want to raise your kids and what do you want to prepare them for. I really want to teach my son how to think, not what to think.
Yeah, that's a good point. Many people won't catch that, but yeah, not how to think and not what to think. That's a really good point. I like that. I really like that. That one really hits. I think you know what? We're going to leave it at that, because it's been an hour already and this flew by. So sit on that, people listening and watching this. Kim, listen, it's already been an hour and it flew by. We can be here for like 3 hours, I'm sure, if we kept going. So, but anyway, if you're looking to take your business to the next level, yourself to the next level when it comes to your business, and I mean, just listen to her, man. She's still a hype girl. I love it. So where can people find you, Kim? Where can people find you?
crownyourself.com. And if you like the socials, you can check out our YouTube channel at Crown Yourself. You can find us on all the socials at Crown Yourself Now. And if you are a big fan of podcasts like this one that inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself, or as I call it, your sovereign self, then check out The Princess and the Bees for all the bees on babies, bodies, business, boys, bank accounts, boldness, belief systems, to help you become the queen or king of your life.
I love it. And all the links will be in the description. Again, Kim, thank you so much again. And then everybody watching, thank you so much for watching and listening. And I will see you guys in the next episode.